This is our pre-press department. We take files in from our clients. The client files are usually InDesign, Illustrator, on occasion other things that we don't like as well, but we try to avoid those wherever possible. But InDesign and Illustrator are our primary files that we get. What we do is we take the files, we check them, make sure that everything is going to print correctly. The colors are going to separate out. We have bleed, everything else. Make adjustments, and then we proof that out. We proof our files out on these Epsons, which are inkjet printers. We'll proof out overlays to show foils, emboss, die cuts on overlays on top of the Epsons. And that way the client can make sure that what we are interpreting from their files is correct. Then they can approve it, and then we print from that, which goes downstairs for the press. The files, when we take them in, we write PostScript files. Our system, which is Printergy, it's made by Kodak. It turns the PostScript files into PDFs. The PDFs then can be used to make proofs. They can be used to make plates. It's a one-time rip, and then the files get used multiple times after that. Can you think of something else?
Well, when you get the files in, what are the majority of issues that you see as far as things that are wrong?
Most of the time what we see is lack of bleed, pagination being incorrect, or not being clear by the customer as far as how the pages are supposed to be arranged if it's a multiple page document, or not showing the backup, whether it's head to head, head to foot, that type of thing. We get black issues where people use registration in place of a rich black. Registration black prints at 100% of all colors, so it would come out extremely heavy on press and cause problems. So we typically, our color that we would use for rich black would be 60, 40, 40, 100, 60 cyan, 40 magenta, 40 yellow, and 100 black. That gives a richer black on press than it would just using black only. Other issues that we would have, or that we don't have as often anymore, would be font issues. Make sure fonts are included with all jobs, or convert to outlines where necessary. We personally like to get the fonts because invariably we get requests to, could you make this one little type change? If it's been converted to curves, then we don't have that ability. We always have to send files back to the client, which just delays the process. So we do prefer on our account to have fonts included instead of outlined.
I think a lot of times when you have a job that folds, the panel size, we have multiple panels. Depending on how that folds, each of those panels may need to be built at a different size. Layering, when we have layers and coating or foil or some process other than just a standard 4-color process printing, anything beyond that, the layers need to be built so that we have that outline so that we know what it is that we're following. If you don't provide that, then we have to build it, and we don't mind building it because we get paid a lot of money to do it. It's a lot more economical for your customer and for you if you're doing it up front.
And if you don't do it, we have to interpret and figure out what you're wanting. If you do it, then you're telling us this is how we want it.
A little bit on G7, certification and how that brings both our departments together.
Sure. G7 is a standard that has been defined for color, and the way it works is we're not having to set each individual device up to match something else. G7, you set each device up to match G7 so that the proofs are G7, the press is G7, everything prints as G7, and that way each device will match. If somebody sends in something and it's proofed at G7, then we've already got our colors set up that way. It makes for a more consistent workflow for upstairs as well as downstairs.
We do kind of a print test in the press room, and we find out the capabilities of our printing equipment. We monitor our blankets, our ink, our plates, our fountain solution, every aspect of that print, and that basically is a fingerprint of what that press is capable of doing. And have the color match the proof. It also allows him to take the files from the customer and produce a proof that is basically the most accurate representation of that file that we can possibly do. It just kind of harmonizes pre-presses proofs with the printing downstairs. When I first got into the industry, we were trying to do everything by eye, and a lot of times we didn't match the proof that we had shown the customer exactly. And so sometimes you had press checks and you had to sell the job. Sometimes we had jobs come back on us and have to get reprinted because they might not have liked the match. G7 really brings both departments together and allows us to control color a lot better. And
G7 is becoming an industry standard where you can pretty much tell somebody that you're G7, they'll know what it is, and somebody else can do exactly the same thing. Produce a proof across the country at G7, send it here, and it should be very close because it is a standard.
You can go from text weight, cover stocks, various substrates, and still bring it within a reasonable ballpark on color match. It really brings the whole industry together in that aspect.
Is there anything the designer has to do to take advantage of that?
There are some settings you can do in Photoshop or some of the other applications with ICC profiles to more closely match it. It all depends on your setup, and every machine is different. Every software is different. That is one thing that you can do. You can do a similar calibration for your monitor.
Do you give ICC profiles to your clients?
Typically, no. We don't have ICC profiles necessarily that will be ready to go for you. There are, if you look up G7 on the internet, there are resources online for that purpose.
Plating department, this is where we do our imposition. So as far as taking a single page that you may create, we'll go ahead and step that multiple times up on the printing plate. This is where it's already been broken. When Chip talked about Printergy, it's already been broken down into CMYK. So this is where I'm making my printing plates for my black, cyan, magenta, the different colors, the Pantone colors that you may be using, the varnishes that you may be using. All of that is done in here. We'll go ahead and image them on a laser. So it's a positive plate. So it images the area that you're looking to print, to reproduce. That's the image you can read when it comes out. So we'll image it on a laser. It'll go through a processor. It'll wash the balance of the emulsion away, and you'll be able to see the area that we're going to print. I thought we had some plates up here. We don't. I'll go ahead and we'll pull a plate downstairs and we can take a look at the press room at a printing plate up close. We can take a look at something down there. Any questions about imposition? This is where they would also do not just stepping the same page multiple up, but if we were imposing for a book, the pages of a book, we would rotate those, put those in the correct position, so when we print them and fold them and put them on a stitcher, they'd end up in the right position within the book. Any questions? Okay. So this is our press room. We've got a variety of printing presses that do a variety of different printing processes. For the most part, this half of the press room are the 40-inch presses. So we've got a 4-color 40-inch with a coater. This one that's in idle right now is a 5-color with a coater. And we're going to walk down next to an 840. These two presses over here, they use conventional printing ink or an oil-based printing ink. They both have aqueous coaters on them. when we go down to the 8 color, the far press, it's a straight UV press. So it's UV ink all the time. We can do a wet trap or a dry trap. What that means is that I'm able to print wet ink on top of each other and cure it at the end to dry it. Or, depending on an effect, an illusion, or a press speed that we're trying to accomplish, we can run interdeck and run the lights in between each of the units if we want to. Helps us to get a harder dry, faster speed, and sometimes a different color or printing effect based on dot gain, different things that we're trying to accomplish for you. When we get over by the 8 color, we'll also pull out a plate and take a look at the plates and see what's going on over there, but we can take a look at a printing plate that we can actually touch where we won't be scratching it. Okay, we'll go ahead and head down there. Okay, over here what Tim has set out for us, we've got a signature that we've already printed. So these are old plates that we've pulled off. So you can see the yellow, red, blue, black, and this is a PMS color at the tail end here, a cool gray. But these are the aluminum printing plates that we use to go on each of the units. The job we're doing right now, the end user is, I believe it's Honda Motor Corporation. So this is going to be a car magazine that is in the Honda dealerships when you go look for a car. Any questions on the printing plates?
These are the plates you would use downstairs that we were just at on the machine?
Yeah.
Okay, this way.
Upstairs, this is the aluminum plate that it'll image. So it's imaging the opposite area. These are the yellow dots within this. It'll image the opposite area, and then it goes through and washes the emulsion away. That's what it washes away. So what he's done is he's pulled aside the different plates, so as it goes through the press, this is the end result. So this is the printing sheet of what it looks like when he's done.
You come up close to the sheet, you can see what we did here is we had an effect where the customer wanted the paint chips of the cards to be shiny. The rest of it's been done with a dull varnish over every piece on a velvet stock, and if you come up, you can kind of see how you get the shine. The spot shine just in those images. That's the UV coating, the gloss UV coating coming through. Everything around it has a coated dull varnish over it to show the contrast. Match up with the inside of the cover. This matches up with another crossover we had on a different signature.
Okay. We can go ahead and walk down. If you don't have any more questions here, we can take a look at the console and see what it is they're doing at the other end of the press. He's scanning the sheet, he's scanning it for color density. The little densitometer that he's using, that'll actually tell him how much ink he has on the sheet. It applies a digital number to it so that there is a constant across the country. There's an industry standard as far as where those should be. Optically, we all see color a little bit differently, so I might see reds, blues, or greens differently than the next person. What this does just applies a number to it, so we're all out of the mix. It isn't how I see color. It's colored by numbers. We're applying a certain number to it, a certain value, or chasing that number. Now, all that gets us to is really just a baseline for the customer, so we've established that. When the customer comes out, or when you come out on your press checks, one of the things we'll ask is, this is where we're at for house standards. You want more red, you want less blue, what do you want? You'll swing the color to achieve the look or the effect that you're after, and at that point in time, we'll scan another sheet. It'll read the numbers at the levels you've just decided that you like your customer, what they want, and then we will establish a new baseline. So we'll tell the computer, this is the new standard. So those will be the numbers we change throughout the run. Because as you print, your color will fluctuate slightly. This just helps you to keep that a tighter line and give you a more constant color throughout the press run. So he's made an adjustment already. When we started, he's going to run a couple of hundred sheets, wait for his ink to balance out to where he can see that adjustment. He'll pull out a sheet and see where he's at with color. He's reading that number. When you see him move to the keys on the bottom, he's actually adjusting his ink keys back on the press. He might have selected the red unit, the blue unit, the black unit. He'll select one unit and move those ink keys up or down, key by key. He'll make those slight adjustments. Same thing, take a couple hundred sheets, see where we're at, make another read.
Doing and what does he do in his title? I said, what is he in charge of doing in his title? Or did you explain that already?
The question is, what's his title and what's he responsible for doing? As a pressman, what he does is he basically runs the press, he runs the crew, whether he's got 2 guys or 3 guys, the press is his responsibility. He's responsible for the production, he's responsible for the quality on the machine, he's responsible for running his crew. What that takes to run a machine like this is a machine that's probably about $4.2 million to purchase. This machine's probably about 6 years old right now. So with that, Andy probably has, if I had to guess, and I've never asked him, I'd say he's probably got at least 20 years in the trade, probably closer to 25 or 30 years. Had a full head of hair when he started. Yes?
Is this an extra cost for quality control?
Which part is an extra?
Him color correcting, does that cost extra?
The question is there an additional charge for the quality control that he's doing over here? No, that's all included in part of the process, part of the hourly rate that we charge for the printing press. All presses do something a little bit differently as far as their QC process. This has a lot of automation, has a lot of memory, several computers that drive the press. Other presses, and we've got them here too, are more of a manual process. It's a guy literally turning ink keys up or down, printing 1 or 2 colors at a time, and running the sheets back through the press. Depending on what it is we're trying to accomplish, we pick which press is best suited for that project. But we've got presses that run from $60 an hour to $600 an hour. Any other questions for the press room? this is our cutting department. If you look around, we've got stacks of the press sheets out here from various jobs. Some of them are pages of a book, some of them may be coupons, some of them may be just headed to die cutting. But whatever they are, 90% of the work from the press room comes here and gets cut either to final size or gets cut to a size for its next process it has to go through. So right now what he's doing, he's got a sheet of paper that probably is close to, it's got a coating on it, and that coating has started to dry. So he's breaking it apart to make sure that the pages aren't stuck together. He's just picking it apart before he gets started. He's going to put it on a scale. So that paper jogger, it jogs the sheets all into position to where we have one constant brick, but then at the same time, it's weighing sheet by sheet so he knows how many sheets he has. What are you cutting them in lips of? The comment? Oh, okay. Yeah. Normally he cuts a bigger lift of paper. I've asked him to stop short and cut this one so you can watch him go through that process. So he's already programmed it. What's happening is the back gauge is automatically moving to the program to the desired depth, and he'll spin the sheet to the proper location for that cut to come through. In order for the blade to come down, there's a lot of safeties. You can see he has to push both buttons with his left and right hand. There's also two arms that come out from the press. Those arms have photo cells in them. It's a laser that runs across it. If he reaches in or something falls in, or I walk in next to him and reached in towards the blade, it would stop the blade instantly. Because as you can see, they can cut through just about anything. You put a 2x4 in there, it'll cut through a 2x4. It'll offload automatically. This has saved a lot of back strain and a lot of back problems that companies have had. Any questions on cutting? Stuck together, that normally doesn't happen. Normally what would be happening, he would be grabbing a pinch of probably an inch, inch and a half, winding it or putting some air in it, and then putting it in the jogger, and the jogger does the rest. Very unusual we'd have to do this.
So what happened to cut?
So if we go ahead and start over here, what Tim has done is he set us out samples of different foiling and different die cutting jobs and projects that we've done. Now, to give you an idea, when we talk about foiling, 9 times out of 10, foiling is going to be the shiny foil is what we're putting on. We've actually taken white paper, we printed the green, and then here we put on this, this foil. The foil is applied with heat and pressure through a die. One of the jobs we're talking about would probably be with this job. This is a rather large foil die, but here is probably
Yeah. So this foil die. So this was an invitation to a party. This was back in, December 31st, so New Year's Eve of 2012. This was a New Year's Eve invitation. This was the invitation you would have received in the mail. So we foiled the other side, we die cut it. When we die cut and scored, then it had to be hand folded. So I got hand folded and tipped on to this base. The base is actually 3 different sheets of paper that a combination of we printed the top, printed the bottom, and glued both of those to a base or to a middle sheet. And then die cut the octagon or the hexagon for the customer.
What would a designer have to do to set that job up?
Talk to his printer.
That's one of the more high-end pieces that I've seen over here. This took quite a bit of work to get this all done.
Now with this, when we talk about the cutting die that does the scoring and does the cutting, you talk about a job that has complex folds, and earlier we'd mentioned different panel sizes, is you get those pieces and parts that have to fold into each other, and where you've designed something that you're not sure exactly, you know what you want, you're just not sure exactly how to make it work. If you talk to your printer up front, it's a lot easier for us to get on board and to kind of steer you in a direction to where you might not want to do it that way. Why don't you do it this way? And you're going to have a lot higher level of success. As nice and as fancy as this piece is, and gets inserted and mailed, this was actually the dummied down one. This is not the exotic piece. This piece was actually dummied down to this level. Ultimately, what they were after was they wanted this to be spring-loaded, so when you opened the flower, this would come out. They didn't like the price on that. A price on this invitation here, it's all over the board depending on what you want and how many you're doing. But very easily that could be a $50 or a $75, even $100 for one invitation. It just depends on what the hotels are doing. Here on this piece for David Copperfield, they knew what they wanted, they just didn't know how to make it work. They didn't know exactly how to make all the pieces come together, how they were going to get this die cut to work. So again, go to your printer, talk to them, see exactly what their capabilities are. A different printer might have done this a different way. Again, for us, for our equipment, this is how we would proceed with the job. Gave them some ideas, gave them some tips, they made a couple of very small changes, and in the end, they get exactly what it was that they were looking for. Does anybody have any questions on just even general foiling or?
You guys make your own dies?
We have the capability of making our own steel rule dies. So not our foil dies and not our embossing dies, but our steel rule. We have the capabilities. We do not. We prefer not to. Really, it's a craft that is much better suited to someone who's doing it day in and day out, hour after hour. We have a couple of local people that are still bending rules by hand, and depending on the job, we'll farm a steel rule die even out to Southern California, where machines are doing it now. So again, if you look at the dies, and it's okay to pick those up, just keep in mind the edges of the rule can be very sharp. All of those bends, all of those dies, they start out as straight rule, and they're all bent by hand.
I have one piece there where you see the sheet that has the word robe on it, little door hanger. The customer ordered this one here about a month ago, but they didn't want the score in it. And the score basically allows it to be folded neatly without the piece cracking and getting a really ugly looking fold. And this time they ordered it, they asked for the score to be put in. So there's your die cut, your slit, and then this part here you see that's creased, that's the score. So what we had to do with that is we took the die and we had to cut it apart, and when they put it in the chase on the cylinders over here, they had to come in and add a piece of metal in there to create the crease you see for the fold, the score. So we basically, with that one we kind of customized the die ourselves.
Inside here, yes, you have the rings, and then there's a sharp blade there that created the slit. Got a couple other examples of things that, you know, that we basically came in here. They had a little punch on this one, and then kind of an oval die cut. That one there again was for an envelope like you may see over here, like the black one there, Tracy, that has kind of some fancy folds that come together to fold into a high-end envelope. On the table there is a job we're currently running over there on the cylinder. It's a little holder for the door card key for a hotel. And you can see how I cut one piece out. You can kind of get an idea. If you want to pick it up, you can fold it all together and see how that's made.
Different foils that they could choose. A lot of the foil companies have just reverted to numbers, so there isn't really a name for the foil. It's probably more of a number. Literally, there are hundreds and thousands of different foils, different colors, styles. There's metallics, there's pigments, there's pastels, there's tints, that we use. There's more than that out there. We're probably limited to probably less than 12 is what we normally use. There's probably actually about a half a dozen that we use on a regular basis. So this has actually got a this is a holographic foil. Based on the dye you use, you can have this, this holographic image in the foil. Probably one of the more common foil manufacturers, but it is just one foil manufacturer. But if you look at the different styles, Tim's got out here some different styles of foil with different holographic patterns and effects. Both holographic. There's another one. Again, I've never seen this one before. You think you've seen them all, and somebody just creates a new one. There is no industry standard, so every foil manufacturer designs their own foil. They go after their own look, and they establish their own standard within their own company.
The foil stamping is done on these three machines right here. Basically, they can create that back plate is a hot plate. They put the foil die and they mount it to the hot plate. We've got one on right now. The foil's loaded here, the strips come down, and that will actually create the image here. This piece comes up and presses the sheet of paper into the foil, and then it goes up against the die that's behind it. And I do kind of have one sheet here you can kind of look at. The end result is this. That happens to be a die that can foil and emboss all at the same time. So it creates a three-dimensional medallion or metal look to this particular piece.
This piece that Tim's talking about is a government. We've got a contract with the U.S. government where for their military, for different branches, that we will go ahead and we produce their certificates of achievement, certificates of graduation, and so forth. Any questions on the foil? There's a job. They actually pay for the dies. It's their property. Now we have years and years of customers' dies that we store for free. We offer the free storage to encourage them to store it here. If the customer takes it back and dings it, the die is no good. So you may have a die that is a couple of $100 or several $1,000 that you just put a ding or created a low spot because you set something on it that you shouldn't have. You treated it in a way that you shouldn't have. And then you come back to your printer and expect me to be able to process it and the next day turn that I always did before. So that's not necessarily going to work. So for us, they are the customer's dies, they're not our dies. If a customer wants to go to another printer, they let us know, we look up the dies, we give them the dies, they're on their way. But it is absolutely their property. When you look at the foil and how the foil works and what it actually is, it's basically a piece of clear cellophane, and then it has this gold image. So the clear cellophane is on this side. Then it has this gold image printed on one side of it. And then on top of that, it has this release printed on top of that. This, for the sake of argument, is just a very, very thin layer of hot melt glue. So it's heat sensitive. That adhesive is going to stick to the paper. I'm going to press it with the die, because the die is hitting on this side. It's only touching the cellophane. It's going to transfer the gold across. And what you'll have when you come out is a missing image area, and we'll see on the other side. We can see some of the others. But you'll see the image of the foil is still there in clear, but the color and the glue transferred to the other side.
You can kind of see what he's talking about here, where it pulled that color right off of it.
That you saw in the other room, those are litho presses. They use aluminum printing plates. They print the same thing over and over and over in large volumes. Over here what we do are static jobs. So again, the same static piece over and over again, but for smaller runs, smaller quantities. A lot more economical to run 200 of this, 500 of that, say 1,000 pieces. It's a lot cheaper to run over here on the digital presses. So what you'll see that we do over here, and again, this is just a small sampling. This is just a rack card. So a small rack card, static image, nothing variable on it, just something you're going to see in a hotel in one of the racks. We'll do those over here. Generally, it turns out that about 5,000 to 4,000 press sheets like this or less, it's probably more economical to print digital than this litho. So we'll kind of guide you over here. There may be reasons why you don't want to print digital. One of the reasons might be if it was going to foil, if it was going to have a subsequent process that required tight registration. The digital presses don't have a dot-for-dot registration, so they will bounce around a little bit within the sheet. You don't really notice it until you put it on another piece of equipment that registers dot for dot and is like in the letterpress, and he's foil stamping. If I wanted to stamp this MGM Lion on top of this one, it wouldn't fit, it wouldn't register. Some would fit, but it would literally just bounce around, not much, but about a 32nd of an inch. So the digital presses do have some bounce with them. That's one of the things you just have to take into consideration when you're doing. That's really more for static jobs as far as the small run and why something would come over here. We also do a variety of color variable jobs. You might get a piece like this that looks pretty busy and you're going to think that it's a static job, but the reality is, and this is just a sample, I can tell because it says Dear First instead of Dear Tracy. So on a piece like this is also for MGM. Depending on, let's say this was for Tracy, depending on my gaming habits, how high I play, how low I play, the type of game I play, whether I'm a tables player or a slot player, the restaurants I eat at, the drinks, everything that you do in a hotel and you use your gaming card, they track you. So in this case, what they're doing is they're going to customize and add for you. So literally, if you come and vacation in Vegas, when you go home, they're going to send you an advertisement and they're going to tell you to come back to Vegas, and they can have a camera shot. Would you like to stay in the same room you did the last time, and show you that same room? What did you think of your meal at this restaurant, and show you the meal at the restaurant that you had? They know everything that you did. And all it takes to match those up is really just data. It's just information. So they have a series, or they call it a library. So we've got a library of assets. So if I want bar number 1 or bar number 2 or bar number 3 or the nightclub or the golf course or whatever shot you want in there, Tracy, on my data information, it tells everything about me that I did on the last trip. They can repeat that and pump it into the ad. They can do it as exotic as they want. Any information that they have, they can utilize, assign a picture to it, assign a graphic, or even just a coupon, just a play level, an offer level that they want to do. They can apply all of that. This one has about, if I remember right, it was about 12 different swap outs. So in this one, they've got different pictures. It might be this restaurant, again, or a different restaurant. I might like one show. They might try and entice me to a similar show at one of the other properties. Because if you go up and down the hotels, going down the strip rather, you've got half of it seems like it's Caesars properties, and the other half is MGM properties, as far as the actual owners. Well, they'll try and push you to one of their other properties. Once you've seen a show, odds are you're not going to go back and see the same show, but you will go see Cirque, you will go see Mystere, you will go see another similar show. They'll push you to one of their other properties. They're very good with the information. It's very smart in how they do it and how they manipulate the information.
How does a designer set up a job like that?
For the most part, what you're going to do is you're going to set it up just like you would a static job as far as your base art. So anything that's going to stay in base art, you would leave. Now, if you've got, maybe all of this is base art, but this graphic you want to swap out. Well, this graphic would need to be on another layer. You're going to create a variable layer for that. So I'll need to know, again, you'll provide me other data, and depending on the graphic that I want to swap in and swap out, the data will need to tell me what to do. Use picture A, use picture B. But depending on the different layers, each swap will be on its own layer because that's what's happening. Because just because this picture swapped out doesn't mean that this one did. And on the next one, maybe both of these pictures swapped out. But I would say as far as the difference that you have to do is in the creating of the layers. You need to create a base layer, a static layer, and then create your variable layers. Again, when you put them on top of each other, they all make sense. You turn your variable layers on and off, and you see the different ads that you're going to be putting in.
So in the base layer, they just put a blank hole?
Yes, just an opening. And generally, rather than just an opening, we like something more like, might use magenta, so a solid of magenta, something that's telling me what, as a printer, tell me what's going on. Did you mean for the area to be blank? Am I looking for something else? Should I have turned a layer on? Like if you didn't give me this, again, just doing what we've done for so long and the customers that we have, I don't see a whole lot of blank areas in anything that the hotels are providing. They are paint jobs. There's image, there's copy everywhere. So in that case, when we see a blank, we will call and ask the question. I'm not seeing what goes here. Oh, we forgot. Here's the data. That goes there. There's probably something else that's happening. Because if you look at most of their pieces, again, even if it's just for a show, this is for a one-night event at Mandalay Bay. Again, they're very busy pieces. They know how much printing costs. They know what catches your eye. And the best thing they can do is put more image on there to catch your eye. Any questions about digital? We have a variety of presses. We've got 12 digital presses, 6 are black and white, 6 are color presses. There are a variety of different sizes, different number of colors, and we have all but one, so 11 are Xerox, different Xeroxes and different sizes and different types, and one of them is an HP. Just different technology. We use them for different reasons. The HPs can print white ink and PMS colors, and the Xeroxes cannot. So it just depends on what your customers are looking for.
So you expanded this area and you moved your mailing somewhere else, huh?
Mailing, actually, we walked past it, got moved in the other room there. So the past two departments that we walked through, that's where we're doing inkjetting, that's where we're doing envelope insertion. We've purchased another envelope inserter that has cameras on it to scan barcodes that we print over here. So I have my own small little 2D barcode, and that tells the camera that the different inserts, that Tracy's insert needs to match Tracy's insert, and when we're all done, put Tracy's name and address on it and mail it to them. So the cameras watch and track all of that. That's a new inserter we got not too long ago, a few months ago. But in here now, all that we do is digital imaging. So it's black or it's color, but all of our digital imaging happens in this room now. And if you notice, it's a little bit cooler than the rest of the plant, and it's a little bit more humid. The digital presses really like the humidity. Here in Vegas, it's difficult to get it to where they want. They want to get to about 50% humidity. We can generally accomplish about 35% humidity, is about as high as we go, and they do pretty good with that. You get below 20%, they don't run too good. Any other questions? This area, so again, we've looked at the larger presses that are litho. We've looked at the digital presses. These are also litho presses over here, but they do a variety of different things. This one here is a jet press. It's a 4-color jet press. It specializes in envelopes, so it prints envelopes very quickly, but it prints 4-color process as a rule. If you look, there's some samples on the side of on the wall over there. Those samples, it's doing 4-color process, but it's also printing a wet trap UV. So the ink is ultraviolet ink. It cures instantly, so there's no wet ink to deal with. See, I was going to rub that, but this ink's dry already from this press over here. So 4-color jet press. We've got a 4-color GTO. Again, the same basic process. They use printing plates, the exact same thing as the larger presses that we looked at. The difference here with these is smaller sheet size, smaller plates, smaller press. It's more economical. This is really for our smaller pieces and shorter runs.
So does this build the envelopes?
No, it prints a pre-converted envelope. As far as the envelopes that we print on this press, they're blank envelopes that were pre-converted somewhere else. We purchase them pre-converted and feed them through. We do print and convert our own envelopes. Generally with those, they're specialty envelopes. So like you saw on the letterpress, they're cardstock envelopes. So they aren't a text weight. They aren't just a regular 24-pound wove or something like a 60-pound offset. They aren't that. The ones we do here, we convert cardstock envelopes. We do that because the converters that do convert the larger envelopes, they don't do the cardstock. So we've had to find a process that we could do it here. So we've done that.